You didn't imagine it. Something shifted between you and someone you cared about, and it wasn't random. They changed, the connection broke, and it hurt more than you expected. What felt like rejection wasn't rejection at all. It was intervention. God didn't allow it to continue because He saw what it would have cost you. What you experienced wasn't abandonment. It was divine protection in motion. By the end of this message, you'll understand why God stepped in exactly when He did, and why His timing was perfect, even when it felt painful. There's something profound that happens when God removes access to someone your heart was attached to. It doesn't feel like protection in the moment. It feels like loss. It feels like something precious was taken away. But what if I told you that what felt like losing someone was actually God lifting a weight off your soul that you didn't even realize was there? You didn't cause this separation. You weren't asking for too much. You didn't miss a sign or fail to love correctly. What happened wasn't about your inadequacy or your inability to make things work. Sometimes God intervenes not because you did something wrong, but because He sees something you cannot see. He watches over your heart with a tenderness that goes beyond human understanding. And when He sees that continuing down a certain path will damage what He's building in you, He acts. The confusion you felt wasn't your fault. When someone you cared about suddenly became distant, when conversations became strained, when the ease you once shared turned into tension, you wondered what changed. You replayed conversations in your mind, searching for the moment everything shifted. You questioned whether you said something wrong, whether you revealed too much of your heart, whether you somehow pushed them away. But what if the distance wasn't created by anything you did? What if God was creating space because He knew that closeness was becoming dangerous to your peace? You weren't imagining the emotional whiplash. One day they were present, engaged, making you feel valued. The next day, something was different. Their attention felt divided. Their words carried a different weight. The connection that once felt natural suddenly required effort. This wasn't your perception playing tricks on you. This was God beginning to remove someone whose presence was no longer serving His purpose for your life. The pain you felt when they pulled away wasn't weakness. It was the natural response of a heart that had formed an attachment. You loved genuinely. You gave honestly. You opened yourself to connection because that's how God designed you to love. But sometimes the very capacity to love deeply becomes the thing that needs protection. Sometimes God has to guard your heart from its own generosity. And this is where most people misunderstand what God was doing. They think the distance means they failed. They believe the separation is punishment. But God's intervention isn't about judgment. It's about preservation. God saw what you couldn't see. He watched the dynamic between you and this person, and He recognized patterns that your heart was too close to notice. Maybe He saw how your peace disappeared when they were inconsistent. Maybe He saw how your joy became dependent on their mood. Maybe He saw how your sense of worth started rising and falling based on their attention. God saw that what felt like love was slowly becoming bondage, and He loved you too much to let that continue. He blocked what your heart couldn't release on its own. When you're emotionally invested in someone, it becomes almost impossible to see clearly. Your feelings create a filter that makes you interpret every interaction through the lens of hope. You excuse behaviors that disturb your peace. You rationalize words that leave you feeling unsettled. You convince yourself that inconsistency is just their way of processing feelings. But God sees without the filter of attachment. He sees the effect someone is having on your spirit, your peace, your sense of self. And when He sees that the cost is becoming too high, He intervenes. The separation was mercy, not loss. What looked like someone choosing to walk away was actually God guiding them away, because He knew that continued closeness would have led to deeper pain. God doesn't just see what is. He sees what will be. He sees the trajectory of relationships, the patterns that are forming, the damage that would accumulate over time. When He removes someone, it's not because He wants to hurt you. It's because He's preventing a hurt that would have been far greater. Think of it like a surgeon removing something that looks healthy on the surface, but is actually spreading infection through your system. The removal is painful, but it's necessary to preserve your overall health. God operates with that same precision when it comes to your emotional and spiritual well-being. He removes what appears to be life-giving but is actually life-draining. God didn't take something from you. He took something off you. He lifted the burden of trying to make sense of mixed signals. He removed the weight of wondering where you stood with someone who couldn't offer you clarity. He freed you from the exhaustion of hoping for consistency from someone who wasn't capable of providing it. What felt like loss was actually liberation, even though liberation can feel painful when you're not ready for it. Your peace left because God was protecting it. When you're around the wrong person, even if they're not intentionally harmful, your inner calm gets disturbed. You might not even realize it's happening because it's gradual. But God notices when your peace starts to erode. He sees when your joy becomes conditional on someone else's choices. He watches when your confidence begins to depend on external validation. And He protects what He's cultivated in you by removing what threatens it. Your anxiety wasn't a weakness. It was a warning. When someone's presence consistently leaves you feeling unsettled, when their communication patterns create confusion rather than clarity, when their behavior toward you lacks the stability your spirit needs, that anxiety is your soul recognizing that something isn't aligned. God uses that internal discomfort as a signal, and when you can't or won't respond to the signal, He responds for you. The emotional blindness that comes with deep attachment isn't your fault, but it is real. When you care deeply about someone, you start to see them through the lens of your investment rather than the lens of reality. You focus on their potential rather than their patterns. You remember their best moments while minimizing their worst ones. You make excuses for inconsistencies because you want to believe in the connection. But God sees without that filter. He sees the full picture, the complete pattern, the actual impact someone is having on your life. This is where God's protection becomes clear. Every time He removes someone who was causing your peace to deteriorate, He's acting as your defender. Every time He creates distance between you and someone whose presence was costing you your joy, He's fighting for your well-being. Every time He blocks access to someone who couldn't appreciate what you offered, He's preserving your heart for someone who can. The path that felt like rejection was actually redirection. God wasn't saying no to your desire for connection. He was saying no to a specific connection that would have prevented you from experiencing the depth of love He actually has planned for you. He wasn't denying your heart. He was protecting it for something better aligned with His design for your life. The person who couldn't stay wasn't your loss. They were the obstacle to what God is bringing. Their departure created space for something that will honor the love you have to give instead of taking it for granted.